Hello, hello. Buenas tardes, buenas noches, depending where you are.
When it's something.
Yeah, here we are on a Wednesday afternoon here in Mexico City. I am joined by my special guest, whom many of you know from her incredible podcast, the Black Women Travel Podcast, or maybe you know her from her Facebook community, Black Women Digital Nomad Entrepreneurs. She is joining us live from Tbilisi, Georgia. I looked up the pronunciation because I wanted to get it right. And all of my life, I have been mispronouncing it. So I finally got it right. So, yes, welcome, Miss Wanda Duncan, joining us today.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having a conversation with me. I always
It
like talking to you.
It is a pleasure to have you here. And I had been thinking for a while, I need to talk to Wanda because, of course, when I was on your podcast, I wasn't even trying to be on anybody's internet or anybody's YouTube or any of that. It's the world has changed a lot since then.
Okay. So you went from being on to completely exploding on YouTube, your own podcast. Like
Yeah.
you took over, you got your own internet. Beyonce got her internet, Adele got her internet. That's the order. Well,
Well, like I
vice
said,
versa.
I'd been meaning to have you on, and then you are currently in the Republic of Georgia, which is a place that has kind of been on my list. I was supposed to go last year to celebrate my birthday, and that didn't happen. And then you've also got a pretty big event coming up next month. And I thought, well, what better time than to talk about all those things and have Wanda on the show? So welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I didn't know you
Okay.
wanted to come here for your birthday. That's dope.
Yes, my best friend was celebrating her birthday, her 50th birthday in Morocco in April. Her birthday
Right.
is 2 weeks after mine. And you know me, I can't just go one place. I'm always looking like, okay, where can I get a connecting flight? And Stephanie was like, "Oh, I'll be in Turkey." And I was like, "I'll be down the street." And then I thought, well, why just stop at two countries? Because like what? And I was like, okay, so I hadn't been able to travel for my birthday, this was what, my third pandemic birthday, I think.
Mm. Mhm.
So I was like, okay, Georgia makes sense. It's relatively close. I go bam, 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 and then things traveling now is
Yeah.
I'm I'm not I'm not the traveler I was before, and I don't know
Yeah.
if I will ever be that person again to,
Talk about it.
carelessly just book a ticket, grab my passport, and be like, I'm out. But
The
I still
privilege, the ignorance of it all, the ease of it all,
the ease of it all, because it
the
is
ease.
not super easy now. So
No.
so yes, that was the plan, was to kick it in Georgia. It was on my radar for a couple of reasons. But we'll get into that. First of all, I want to talk about you. Now,
Okay.
you are in Georgia now. How long have you been there?
Just since like the almost the top of the year, so
Okay.
some months now.
Okay. Okay. But this is not your first stop living outside the US. Can you remember all of the places that you have lived since you've left the US this last time?
So Europe, I bounced around with house sits. So like Western Europe, I bounced around quite a bit when I first started. Then I spent like 9 months in Vietnam, like 3 months in Thailand, and some years in Malaysia. Um, it's really Malaysia. Don't say it like that. Nobody says it like that. Don't get caught up. And then Albania. What was that? 9, 9, 10 months, something like that. And then here.
Okay. Okay.
Some stints in Indonesia here and there. There's been like smaller, like significant amounts of time, like those are in the countries.
And that sounds like typical of a digital nomad. And when you left, I mean, yes, you have the Facebook community for Black women digital nomad entrepreneurs, but was that your intention when you left the US, to be a digital nomad, or you just want to be
Yeah,
gone?
I mean both. So like a lot of so I left in 2016. That was not my first time leaving. 2010 was when I first tried to leave for real. So I only stayed out 9 months that time. I'm seeing a 9-month theme here. um, so then when I made the decision to leave again in 2016, I was like, how do I make this sustainable? How do I make this really happen? Because I already left and came back, and that was terrible. I don't want to do that again. So I think a lot of the source material for how can this be feasible? What are things that people are doing to make this sustainable came from digital nomad communities. It came from white people. I
Because that was
wanted
going
it
to
to come
be
from
my
Black people.
question. That was going to be my
Right.
question when you said it came from digital nomad communities. And I was like, were there any
It
Black
came from
folks
white
in
people.
there?
So of course there's Black people. You know, there are plenty of ladies and they're in the group now and they've been on the road for forever, but okay, well, where's the information, sis? Like, congratulations. Happy for you. Where's the information? Not that you have to, but like, who is then? There was one lady, I won't mention her name, that had a blog. And she specifically, like one of the posts was, stop asking me how I can afford to travel, or stop asking me how I travel. Because, you know, that's just kind of like how we are, like, get out my business. But it was just like, I need to be in your business because I want it to be my business too. So I won't say her name, but you know, the white people, they got resources. You know, so a lot of times they're just a lot more free with it. And, you know, they get an ad revenue or like whatever their shtick is. It's usually not just out of the goodness of their heart, you know, they influencers as well. So, and it could be out of the goodness of their hearts, whatever. So that's where I was getting a lot of my information. I did have the idea to work online. I didn't start doing that immediately. I created what I called my freedom runway, and I saved up a bunch of money and I budgeted, and house sitting was a part of that. That was a strategic part of that. It wasn't because I loved animals, although that did come. It did. It came.
I
Like I
know.
had a
I
dog
mean,
when I
keep
was.
it real. Keep it.
That's funky. That's 100% funky. Like that's what it was. That was a strategic move. Housing is 100% going to be your largest cost, and so by cutting that out, you extend the runway. And I was extending my runway because I intended to stay gone. So I was living off of about $10 a day. I did that for like 5 years,
Oh,
maybe
wait.
6,
You said
probably 10,
$10 a day.
10 American dollars, not these other
Okay.
people dollars. Although the euro
I
is
just
on
want to
par.
make sure I heard that correctly.
Yeah. 10 American dollars a day. So yeah, that's what it was. Saved up money, did my research, gave myself some time to explore, which I think is important. I think sometimes the women are looking for community when they come out. You know, they want the drinks, they want the tacos. You know what I'm saying? They want to, they want the sunsets, they
The
want the beach,
meetups.
and that's fine. Like do that. But I need it myself, and so that's why I always talk about that. Like it's dope to have stuff around you, but it's even more amazing, I think, to have yourself, to start that healing process, to divest from all that stuff that just the simple being in America puts on you, just the simple existing in America puts on you. Understanding what that is, being a fish in different water, so you understand the water that you just came from, and start to like for real live, start to be more embodied. I think there's a certain disconnectedness you have to exist in America.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think because of how we live our lives or how we have to live our lives in the US, it's very hard when that is not working for you to be able to visualize how you can live another way. And Stephanie talks about it a lot, where she says having time to do nothing. Because once you step away from all of that and you have the time to rest and you have the time just to think and ponder and figure out and examine, oh, I like these things. I don't like these things. When I do these things, I feel this way. You know, I don't know that you have the space to do that while you're in the US living that life. I don't believe you do. Okay. Now, you said $10 a day. And most folks know, like, I am the frugal person, and even I am struggling with that. But I think I know, like you said yourself, housing is going to be your most expensive thing. I mean, when I look at my budget here in Mexico City, if I wasn't paying what I feel like is all this money for housing, and I already know there are lots of people who pay more than me, blah, 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 but I still feel some kind of way about it. Like, I could be doing some serious things. So you mentioned house sitting being a big piece of that. And I think sometimes people hear folks online talk about house sitting and they're like, oh, I don't know if I could be up in somebody else's house, blah, blah, blah. But if that meant that you could live.
What's the bottom line, honey?
$10 a day and not have, and that would give you the space to give yourself some room to do those things. So without housing costs, still, how you get to this $10 number?
So, groceries have been often like more affordable wherever else I've been. So what else are you paying for? You're paying for transportation and sometimes a visa. Like Vietnam, I paid for a visa for a year. Visa requirements are always changing. And at the time you had to get a year visa, but sometimes you could just get 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So food, transportation, and, just like how you cut up, like how many sexes on the beaches do you need, sis? Like, but even with that, like, they may not cost that much depending on where you are. So, I was in London for part of that, and London's expensive. So
hell
like,
yeah,
maybe I'm not
expensive.
The entrees, the drinks, like all of that stuff, expensive. So like, maybe I'm not spending so much on that, but the groceries were inexpensive. So like, it was whatever. I spent some time in Ireland, same deal. Spain, not so bad. Where else was I? Italy, not so bad.
And here you are. Europe is one of these places. A lot of people just are like, oh, if I don't have a lot of money to spend, I've got to avoid Europe. I've got to focus my attention elsewhere. But you're saying right here, it can be done.
Yeah,
you just got to be strategic about it.
Exactly. So it's like, maybe you're not going out to eat. I think we just love going out to eat. Like, it's novel to us. Like, coming from America where it just seems more expensive. The UK is like, in Ireland, that was expensive. It's like, but y'all don't even season. Like, how y'all raise the world for spices and don't know how to use them. That's the part I just,
that's one of the world's big mysteries.
So why am I paying all this money for unseasoned fish? Like, you heard of bay? Like, I don't. So anyway, so maybe you're just going out like once a week. Maybe you're going to the bar like once a week or something like that. But other parts of Europe, it's not so bad, like Albania. I fell in lust and love. It was love first, but then it became love. I got to know. It's a liquor. It's called raki. I don't even know what it's made of. I just know that the way it made my body feel and my spirit soar was the best thing. And it was like 50 cents, but it was 50 Albanian cent. It was 50 Albanian cent.
So what is that?
Per
like
shot.
A nickel?
I don't know. I don't know. But the conversion actually not great because I have to watch it. It would start to overtake me. But yeah. So it just like it depends on where you go and like what you like. If you think that, we have this idea of luxury and the soft life, how these social media trends go and you see a post one or two times and then you think that's what life is. Maybe you're trying to go to the Hilton bar, every weekend and have the really fancy cocktails and maybe that's your idea of it. But for me, it's really just about how you can connect with folks on a local level. So sometimes that's expats, other digital nomads, and of course locals. For me, definitely. So like language is important. But just being at a bar and maybe like, so here's like three plus gel is it three gel? Three gel is $1 or something like that. You can get like a beer for like a couple bucks and just like hang out with the homies. And it's not, but it's more about connecting than it is about being in this fancy surrounding where you may or may not connect with other people. So yeah.
Okay. And we kind of ended up on this little diversion because my question was like, did you intend to be a digital nomad? You were talking about how you got there eventually. And okay, I didn't know if it was something else you want to say then.
No, that was it. So it was like the source material, a lot of it came from digital nomads. I gave myself some time to rest, and I was also exploring about things that I was interested in. Like sometimes we don't even know what we like because we've been so in survival mode that you have no idea. You have no idea the stuff that you're capable of. You don't even see the value of the skills that you've gained so far. And so it's more about having that time to connect. And then eventually it became about, okay, how do I continue to sustain this by earning money online?
Okay.
And living off of $10 a day, also helping to sustain.
Okay. All right. Now, making a little bit of a segue to Georgia specifically. Now, for me, it was on my radar because it is the birthplace of wine.
Come on. Some people want to go where Jesus was born. I was trying to see where wine was born. Okay.
And from the Black travelers I'd seen online, a lot of them were saying, ain't nobody care I was Black. They were like, oh, foreigner, and kept it moving. Like it wasn't going to be a place where it was going to be a struggle to be there because of what I look like. And then the 365-day tourist visa. So for those,
talk nasty to me.
For those reasons,
where they do that at?
Exactly. That is wild. That is wild.
How y'all do? And you could just.
Yeah. So, okay. So did you have any ideas about eventually going to Georgia? Like, how did you end up there?
Okay. So this was a COVID move. Let's keep that light and the bright. So the 365 visa, like I was in Malaysia and they were like, hey girl, chill. Like, don't nobody care about you and your expired tourist visa. Everybody's visas expire. We'll let you know when it's time to leave. I found out on a Wednesday that they had announced the previous Monday that I needed to be gone by the next Wednesday or Monday. It was a ridiculously small amount of time. And so I was like, where is open? Where can I go? I don't have no type of COVID shots. There was like a queue.
Well, no, then I was going to say, when was this? Because were there vaccines at this point?
It would have been 2021, I guess. This time is truly flying. I guess it was 2021 because 2020 is when it all came down.
Yeah.
So 2021 and it was like May. It was like April or May. So they had this like super long queue for the country to get their COVID shots. I was in the queue, but so like some countries are not letting you in. So it was just like, where am I going to go? And then on top of that, just a very annoying fact, like when I was leaving, they were like, you have to have a ticket to America. And I was like, why is it your business where I have a ticket to as long as I'm leaving your country?
Well, wait,
So
Malaysia. Well, wait, Malaysia wanted you to have a ticket to the US?
yeah. So you know what I did? Because you ain't finna tell me what to do. I'm an American. No. Girl, the white side picked up, the code switching picked up real fast. So credit card benefits. This is something else that I did when I left. I got travel credit cards and I did a bit of travel hacking. So I got like a bunch of points that also helped to take a bit of the sting out of some transportation, including some flights, BTW. That also helped with the $10 a day. But so one of the cards that I had, it may still, but at the time it has a travel portal and it allowed a 24-hour cancellation. So I just bought my little funky ticket, canceled it, as soon as I showed them or whatever. And then when I got to the airport, they was on that bull again. So I just bought another ticket and of course canceled it and then did what I needed to do for me. But yeah, so 2021, I went to Albania first. And because at the time they also did a year.
Yes.
They changed that this year. So now they're only doing 3 months like everybody else. I don't know what happened.
Why? Because
Why?
they for a
Why?
long time
Why?
they had a 365-day like Albania has always struck me as one of those places where like rules are more like guidelines. Like, like ain't nobody pressed about you being here. So I was very surprised to hear that they made that change.
Right. Like why? For why y'all did that though? So the winter came and I got to see another side of Albania, which I don't care to ever see ever again in my life. For some reason, they're not prepared for the cold. And I was like, you've been a country for a very long time. Winter's coming every year. Why don't you have insulation in your buildings? Why am I cold inside? Why does it feel like I'm lighting a match inside of a freezer? No. So then I left and came to Georgia, which also did the 365. So basically, I was just like trying not to move around a lot. So I wanted to hunker down and not die and not spread death.
Okay. Those are good goals. Those are good goals.
But that's what got me here, right? Because like it hadn't been on my radar before that.
Okay, because that's what I was curious about. Was it someplace that was on the list? Because I know you were kicking it in Malaysia, Southeast Asia, and Georgia is a little different than that. So that's why I was curious. Now, you've been there for some months. I take it was a good decision. It was a good move.
She all right. With all this Russia, Ukraine, greed is just abundant. So things have gotten ugly. It has left a sour taste in my mouth. This is something else that I want to talk about unexplored.
I was going to say, we're gonna get into the whole Russia Ukraine thing. Okay, so hold on
because it certainly got into me.
Yes, hold on to that. But let's just talk about the experience, because when did Russia invade Ukraine?
It was like March.
Okay, it was this spring. Yeah. Okay, so pre that,
maybe April.
Let's talk about. What were your observations? What were your experiences living there?
You see all types of graffiti. You see all types of graffiti everywhere. You see a lot of personal expression.
Like good
people
graffiti.
Yeah, like it's cute or whatever. Like I think they're artists.
Well, yes, no, but there's a difference between like urban art, street art, and I'm just tagging shit because I ain't got nothing else to do.
Yeah, there's like full-on murals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say funky, you're like funky, not funky.
It's funky also because I'm pretty sure it's like 3 million years old. They call it like old Tbilisi and new Tbilisi. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? Because like, what's new? Like, because this was built in 1800 versus 1500, like versus zero. Like, I don't get it. People are also very expressive. There's like a lot of hair expression and like clothes expression, and people like, just kind of dress how they want to dress. They're not necessarily trying to be Western, I guess. like super made up with the injections and all that stuff. I have
Yeah.
seen our hair. Somebody is putting extension in these folks' hair, and I try not to hex them because I don't want that to come back on me. But it's crossed my mind. So somebody's putting extensions in these girls' hair, and they think it's cute or whatever, and I just like try to look away very quickly. So
It's the
nothing
same
bad.
way here.
In Mexico.
Braids are very popular, and getting braid extensions are very popular. And I'm like, okay, y'all do what y'all gonna do. And
Especially since this year, they just passed the act, and it's just like whatever. So there's that happening. There's a warmth and a presence that I've experienced. Sometimes in Malaysia, like I'll go to the shop, get the same thing, and they act like they never saw me before, and they like, but like, people kind of see you. They like see you. What is it like walking down the street? It's like no big deal. It's a big city, right? It's the capital. So, people are moving and shaking. They not even war, capitalism is going to capitalize.
Oh
so
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah. And I was going to say, this is a part of the world that has had a difficult history. So I think people in that part of the world are like, we're not going to let this one thing, like, we're going to keep living.
I mean, they have to. So there's that, right? So it's like, oh, I'm not going to go to work because the neighboring country's at war. Like, that's who does that? Who has the ability to do that? And then there's the influx of Russians here and stuff like that. So like for the most part, it's just been it's been chill. Okay. Just existing in the streets as a Black person, like it's been chill, not a whole lot of stairs. Nobody walking up and touching my hair. Hi, Vietnam.
Yeah, that's East and Southeast Asia are special.
So
Yvonne wants to know, how's the food hitting though?
Hi, Yvonne. How you doing? Okay, so if you go to a restaurant, so I don't eat meat. So talk about picky eating. I don't eat meat. And a lot of the world does. If you go to a restaurant and you order stuff there, it's cool. The street food, what are y'all doing? Why is it so dry? Where's the sauce? Where's the seasoning? It's just bread and cheese and different forms of bread and cheese. And they may throw some meat and some beans in there just to get, a little razzle dazzle up in there. But like for the most part, it's just like dry bread and cheese. So it's like, why is it dry though? So it's just like these little bakeries everywhere, every 3 steps you see a little bakery, and they have bread and cheese, bread and beans, bread and meats, and then different kinds of sweets they look like cake, but they're not cake.
They're pretty, but they're not tasty.
But they look like cake. Or other little sweets, local sweets. But there's this a dumpling is it's called kinkali. It's probably like kinkali. It's probably like kinkali, like back there. I get it stuffed with mushrooms, and it's like it's like a hug from the inside. So it's just pasta,
a hug from the inside. Is it like a pierogi?
I guess. But pierogi is like flaky, isn't it? The crust is crusty.
Not the ones I had in it. It's like a giant ravioli, kind of.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Okay. And see, I was like, pierogies, what are y'all talking about? And when I was in Poland, I had some, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. Of course, mine were not filled with mushrooms, as we both know. They're not going to be.
So like that one is really good. And then they have like, some other stuff that's well seasoned, really tasty. But you just have to like, and then it takes, time. I guess it's fresh. But other than that, they have like international food. They got Domino's, they got KFC, they got Wendy's, they got,
because capitalism is gonna capitalize.
Right. Other than that, like Thai, there's Thai food, pizzas, stuff like that. Shawarma is huge because I guess The world does shawarma.
Well, historically, if you look at where they're located, they're next
Yeah,
to Armenia, Azerbaijan,
Turkey.
Turkey, and historically, empires have expanded and contracted through that region. So I'm not
Right.
shocked to hear, oh yeah, shawarma's a thing. Like I would,
Meat
I
on
would
a stick.
expect that.
Yeah.
I would expect that.
So yeah, it's
Have you tried the
some of
wine?
the international food don't. It's like, okay. Like I've had Indian food here, and I was just like, y'all playing in my face. Like
Well,
I've not been to India, but Malaysia has an Indian population, so
yeah,
I feel like I know
I don't
what's
know that
good.
there are a lot of Indians in Georgia. Um,
So there are some though,
yeah,
and they was
but
in the
not the
kitchen.
ones maybe who know how to cook. Because
But
that
you
would be
know,
like me opening a restaurant. Like I'm American, but I shouldn't
girl,
be
the
in
picnic
anybody's
menu.
kitchen, you know?
But like it has something to do. There's something very special, and not to be taken for granted. Having ingredients for dishes that are grown in the place where the water and the sun and the soil, where that dish comes from. That's totally different from having it somewhere else. So I feel like sometimes they're just doing the best they can, pulling
Yes.
scraps together.
Um,
So that's why it tastes different. It's just like, okay, this is your
you
mom would
can't
slap
get
you in the face if you
every
and
ingredient
then you charge us so much
everywhere.
for it.
You can't get every
Right.
ingredient everywhere. So yeah.
Right.
Have you had the wine?
The wine has had me. I've had the wine. We're in a wonderful cohabitating relationship. Homemade wine. They make wine from all types of different fruits, and I'm not great about, like, I haven't been to a wine tasting and stuff like that. They paint with wine. That's how much wine is just like you turn on a tap and you could choose wine or water. Like that's how. No. I wish that sounds good. But it's very tasty. They have their own demarcations. Like I don't know. I don't know what you call it, but they have their own names for the specific types of wine. So I'm a dry girl, dry red. They have the dry white. They have the semi-sweet, the sweet, and so forth and so on. So yeah, you just learn what that is, and you got different houses making this the different types of wine. And a good time is had by all.
That's what I love to hear. Okay. So if I don't know if you can answer this question, but I'm gonna ask it.
Okay.
If I were moving to Georgia or to Tbilisi and I was going to be there long term, any idea about like I don't even like asking this question because I know it's a hard question to answer. I was gonna ask like how much should I expect like to budget for a month? But I know that depends on, well, how do I want to live?
Not necessarily, because I said these folks is playing in people's faces with these prices. So it like used to be known as like a budget friendly place,
Yes.
but these old ass, not modern, not upgraded, probably got asbestos. Like you need a
Oh,
tetanus shot.
okay.
They're
Hold
going for
on. They
like $500 a
absolutely
month.
They absolutely have asbestos. This was a former Soviet republic. You think in the Soviet Union anybody gave a damn about asbestos use?
They were no
No.
mask, no gloves.
And then after independence, I'm pretty damn sure they just spackled up some stuff and kept it moving. So like I totally would expect that. Totally. So
Mind blowing.
what you're saying is you've seen an increase in prices?
Seen an increase. Yes. And they charging USD is the part that just blows my back out
Okay.
every single time. So you can go
Okay.
to an ATM and take out USD. Are you not in Europe?
No, you're
If
not.
you want to be USD so bad, then just use, El Salvador. They use American currency. I'm sure some other countries around the world do too. Why are you playing games? And they they try to use it to their advantage. So they try to charge rent in
Absolutely.
USD.
Absolutely.
They try to have you pay school fees in USD, and they do this stupid game where they have you convert it back, and then you end up owing more and all this other stuff because, you know, conversion rates are fickle. It just be stupid games and stupid prizes. Like,
no. I heard you mention that when I watched your interview with Krishan, and why they're posting prices in USD. It's because USD is a hard currency. The Georgian currency is not. And so if you are a local on the ground and you don't want to get screwed by conversion rates, you want people to pay you in US dollars. So I get it from that point of view. But from the point of view as the foreigner living there, I would not love that. I would not love that at all. But I get why they're doing it. They have a weak currency. Similarly, in Turkey, when you look at rents and you're looking at purchasing something, they're like, oh, don't talk to me about Turkish lira, only USD. They're like, don't even come at me like that. This is even here.
The euro was right there. They're even trying to like beg to become a part of the European Union.
Choice. It is an interesting choice in that way that they would choose USD and not the euro. So I would be interested to know why that choice was made.
You can't even go to an ATM and take out the euro. It's literally only gel or USD. I'm trying to express. I'm trying to express the confusion in my brain.
That's wild. Because I when I was in Cambodia is like that. You can get their currency or you can get USD. They're both accepted equally. And I was just like, it was a surprise to me because given our history in that part of the world, I was not expecting them to be like, oh yeah, I'll take dollars.
They don't care about, listen, they wouldn't talk about the bloodshed. They still talk about the currency, capitalization.
Yes. But, you know, Georgia, it would be interesting to hear from a Georgian, do they consider themselves Europeans? Because I don't think the Europeans consider them Europeans.
Well, you know, so this is something that Americans have forgotten, right? So in America, it's so whitewashed that they stopped infighting in between their whiteness when like that's a historical thing.
Yes.
So like this chick from Albania was telling me about how she went to school in like Sweden or something like that and how she was treated like a nigga. Right. And so like I've been putting up videos on TikTok or whatever, and you know, the Georgians have found it, which is funny because I would never comment on anything from Atlanta or Illinois. Like I don't care. So but they found it and they're like commenting on stuff like, oh, we have very seasoned food, or we use USD because it's stable and like all this stuff. So one said that they're Eurasia, and it's just like, okay, girl, but the Asia part's not kicking in very well. So there's that.
They're kind of this, I find, thinking about it from a historical point of view, the folks in those places that are crossroads. So think about former Yugoslavia, think about where Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan are. They don't fit with. And so the Europeans are kind of like begrudgingly like, okay, I guess y'all are technically in your, I mean, like this is
y'all white, but y'all not the acceptable white.
Y'all
not the colonizer white.
They're not the colonizer white. They're like
Italy. You got to be Spain. You got to be France.
You know, because this is the Caucasus. That's where Caucasians come from.
I'll tell you the story. So I'm in London, you know, doing my thing or whatever. Went to this shop to buy some stuff. I flip on the accent because I'm goofy like that. So the shopkeeper thought I passed. I passed the test. Like, so he's white. And he starts confiding in me about, oh, the Polish are coming here and they're taking our jobs. And I was like, this is an out-of-body experience. I've never been on this side of the conversation. Like, so the West girls absolutely hate the East girls. The East girls are absolutely like trying to survive. Just like, you know, the whole world just trying to survive, man. They're just trying to send money back home, trying to build a house, trying to take care of their parents. Like,
So when you, let's say you go to the grocery store, are you buying
Uh-huh.
things in local currency
Yeah,
or
so like
okay.
the grocery store, so like this is a tap city. Your card is a wand. You tap
Hmm.
everything everywhere, even the bus, like you just tap everything everywhere. Mostly the only thing that takes cash is the markets, like fruit and veg, and you can buy your meats and cheeses and like all that stuff. And that's cash, and everything else is gel. It's just
Okay.
rent that they're trying to get in USD. But I haven't gone to a market and taken USD. I'm sure they would take it if you wanted them to, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, but yeah, that is an interesting choice. Now you've got me wondering, so I'm gonna have to dig into that. And if I find an explanation,
Please,
I will share. Um,
please, because my brain is on fire. She's like,
cost
why? Why?
co- cost of living wise, let's
Hmm.
say between Albania and Georgia.
So not super fair, but because it's not touched by the war like that, I think there's
Okay.
probably an influx, and they probably got greedy too. From people who were able to afford to leave or who had to flee, right?
Okay.
Um, but I was paying 200 for a one bedroom, 200 USD for a one bedroom in Albania. I was paying 200 for a three bedroom in Malaysia. The 200 in Albania was outside of the city center. The 200 in Malaysia was on an island, like in the city. Here I'm paying about 330 outside of the city. It's like off in the cut a little bit for a one bedroom. And I had to fight for that. I had to
Okay.
fight, I had to dig.
Well,
The thing about finding places in Albania too is a bit more difficult if you're relying on Facebook groups or like the local websites. Language barrier huge, so
yeah.
finding a place was harder. So people who could speak English are gonna rent you an apartment that's more expensive. And here it was kind of the same a little bit. You could do the Google Translate thing, like that kind of works to an extent. They're not very motivated to rent. It takes you a while to get a realtor to actually show you a place. They be playing games in your faces too. Um, but places they seem to be hovering around like to 4 to 500 for a one bedroom. That's not like
Which
a scene
to
out of Saw.
to me, for Georgia, that
Hmm.
sounds a little high.
It's not a little
Um,
high.
it's a lot of
It's
high.
extremely high.
Okay.
But
Okay. Because
and that's
that's
on the lower end. Like they're
okay.
playing better
Okay.
games.
Okay. Because no, and
That's on the lower end.
I asked
Mm,
in comparison to Albania because I would think
mm.
that would be a more fair comparison versus like Malaysia or
Yeah,
Vietnam. Um,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That it is a more fair comparison. I couldn't find anything in Tirana for 200 USD. Like nowhere in no part of the city. The city is big.
And
So yeah.
I may have my
At the
own
time that I was
prejudices.
there, because
Okay.
how housing is like availability. Somebody might have been in my house that was 200, and it was just a timing. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying I have a bit of a bias. Like to me, Albania is like if you're comparing it to other countries, it's a little backwoods.
A
So that
little.
you okay, so that you it's like, that you couldn't find something for $200. I'm just like, okay, we getting a little big for our britches, but that's my own bias coming in there. But also, like you said, I think it's important to remember that you came into Albania mid COVID,
Hmm.
uh, and what that did to prices because I got back to Mexico City in July 2020, and like the exact my previous apartment that I was paying about $450 for furnished before I left in 2018. When I came back, he wanted, I got to do some math in my head, $600 $550, $600. So, like, I know the fact that you arrived when you did is going to impact prices. And then, of course, you arrived in Georgia just before Russia got really aggressive toward Ukraine. And so let's go ahead and talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
We had a few questions. What impact has the Russian-Ukraine conflict had on the way of life in Georgia?
So accommodation highest. So that's touching everybody. I feel like some folks is getting rich, but like everybody don't own property, and I don't know what Georgians are doing, and Ukrainians who ain't got Skrilla like that, what are they doing? I assume that the Russians who left had a little bit of money, but all their pay systems went down. How they getting paid?
When you say Russians who left, you're talking about who left Russia and came into Georgia?
Influx,
Okay.
well, like droves. I don't know the numbers, but I know it's a lot.
Okay. So, and typically, I think it is fairly safe to assume that in situations like this, the first wave of folks who got on planes and headed out were people who had money in their pocket or who had access to relatives who, would then funnel money, what have you. So, so yeah. Okay. So, you've seen a jump in the prices for accommodations.
I can't speak to like food. Some Georgians that I've talked to, maybe like one specifically was talking about how food was getting more expensive. This was maybe back in March, like early March. Food was getting more expensive. Public transportation used to be 50 local cent. Now it's like $1 local cent. It's one gel, one lari. What else has changed? I guess a lot of the world is feeling, the crunch with prices for like gas and electricity and all that type of stuff. I don't know that that's touched as much here. They have like a different system. It seems like you're charged according to like what neighborhood you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't even know what my bills is. Real talk. I have zero. They don't have a mailing system. I know y'all old. I know y'all used to horse and buggy and I don't know, smoke signals, but you could get an address. Ugh.
Okay.
Albania did that stuff too. But anyway,
I
so
lived
like
in
I
Honduras.
don't
There
get
was
a
no
bill.
address. Remember that. There was no mail system. When I ordered pizza, it was next to the school brown gate. So I know that struggle. I
had to have a card mailed to me, and it's just like, girl, what?
I don't even know. Is there any concern about the upcoming winter and the availability of heating fuel and that
Resources.
kind of stuff, natural gas?
I mean, there's always that, right? You don't never know what's gonna pop up.
Okay. Are you feeling, because you were there a little bit before, and now you're living in the now, in the after. Has the vibe changed any?
So, like, I watched this documentary. People don't just be like, yeah, man. Okay, so walking down the street, you see go home Russians semi-often, just graffiti, go home Russians.
But that could be
we hate
old,
you
though,
Russians.
because they ain't never liked the Russians.
I mean, they're still partially occupied by Russians.
Yes.
To this day. I mean, they might have left, actually. Maybe not. So that's what you see in the streets. It's not like a Georgian is going to be like, man, fuck Russians. There was a swell of support for Ukraine. There's signs everywhere, blue and gold everywhere. Lots of posts on Facebook and different groups offering this, offering that, whatever. Taking up donations, even like now, for stuff for the Ukrainians. But in the documentary that I watched, like, you know, Georgians were being asked directly how they felt about it. And, you know, they was talking about being anxious.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they triggered, you know what I'm saying? Like, because they looking at Ukraine like, girl, we know. Girl,
yeah.
we've been there.
And if we've been there, because
we've been there. We got you. We'll go
I was
and
going to
fight for
say,
you.
was it like 10 years ago? But my concept of time is off. But I know in the 2000s, there was a dust up.
Not the 99s, but
yeah, sometime in the 2000s, there was a dust up with Georgia and Russia. So like, there's not good blood there to begin with. And I know very much any former Soviet republic has to be looking at this and being like, dude, like, y'all gotta Ukraine gotta win, because otherwise, what does that then do for security in these other states? It puts a lot of things up in the air. So no, I totally understand that.
Yeah. So like that's what I could gather. That's the intel that I could gather. Like, I don't have very close Georgian friends who would confide. I just have a documentary and some graffiti.
And I mean, no, but you can kind of get the vibe on the street. It's like, you know, when so many people sent me links. Go ahead.
Sorry, just remember, like, I put in the nomad group, the digital nomad group, there's a specific bar that wanted you to like renounce. If you are Russian, they wanted you to renounce
before you could come into the bar.
Putin. Yeah. So like there's been some of that, you know, on some of the Facebook posts for accommodation. You know, you ain't supposed to do that. No discrimination, AK, like, yeah, whatever. That's what it's supposed to be. But they would be straight up like, no Russians. So I know like a few Russians, they're like late 20s, early 20s, that came, and they were having a really hard time finding a place that wasn't just stupid.
Because it's like, if we're gonna rent to you, we're gonna make you pay.
Okay. So there was that as well. Like, you did see, like, in some of those Facebook posts, a little bit of discrimination happening.
Samurai wants to know electricity, water.
I'd just be happy every time it come on. So like, electricity hasn't been bad at the place where I live. It's only like buzzed on and off, which is frustrating, but not horrible. So it's not been off for an extended amount of time. Water, on the other hand, I don't know what they be doing or what they need to do. So where I live now, so it's like different companies service different parts of the city. The busier part of the city, that joint will go off and stay off, and people will be posting in Facebook, be like, when is the water coming back on? How do you get alerts about the water? Blah. That joint will stay off for forever. Where I am now, it's been off, but they've done it like overnight, so it's not been so bad. And it's not been so much, I guess. It's probably been like maybe once a month, honestly, where you just go and you be like, oh.
That's not horrible.
But, okay.
I mean, I
guess it could be worse.
It could be worse. It
get
could
it
be
together.
Worse.
Like, I'm just so like in Asia, they don't do that. Like, your electricity be on, your water be on, even in monsoon season or whatever. Like,
see, and in Central America, like waking up, hell, even parts of Mexico City, waking up and not having water could just be a thing. I've only experienced that once, and not where I live now, but I know that there are parts of the city where that is an issue. So once a month, it could be worse. You could have to get your water in buckets, you know?
I mean, I have water. I am traumatized. I have water in reserve. Like, I have bottles of water waiting for me so that my life is not too interrupted. But of course it's interrupted because it's not supposed to be bottles of water. It's supposed to come out. But yeah, all things.
Patty is curious if they're fixing the water system.
Patty girl,
do they? Because I would say a better question is, do they perceive there to be an issue? Because some places it's like, yo, this is just
This is
how it
how it's
is.
been. This is our way of life. Welcome to Georgia. And they'd be like, okay, girl. It's the same thing with the heating in Albania. It's just like, y'all don't see nothing wrong with it.
Well,
I don't know what they're doing. They could just be turning it off and be like, don't get too comfortable. This helps to keep you on your toes. This helps you grow as a person. This puts a little hair on your chest. So let me turn this water off. How am I making you a better person? Maybe that's why they're doing it, Patty. Patty, you tell me, Patty. Okay.
There was something I was going to say, but I forgot. Okay. Oh,
sorry.
Andre, I wanted to recognize your super sticker and I was going to put it on the screen, but I had marked it and I unmarked it and I didn't. But thank you, Andre. And Andre had another question. They were curious about, are Ukrainians also flooding into Georgia?
I mean, I don't know that the flooding is still happening. It should have flooded by now. Some came. So I don't know the numbers. I don't know where they mostly went to, into the surrounding countries or whatever.
When I came back from Morocco, I connected in Madrid, and almost my entire flight from Madrid to Mexico City was Ukrainians. I had not expected that. This would have been the middle of April. But I just thought they were random Europeans. And then I noticed, I was just like, there was part of me like, wow, there's a lot of white people on this plane. And then when we got to immigration, like they had to go like to their own separate line at immigration. And that's when it hit me, because there was a lot of them with kids. And that's why I was like, oh, that's what's going on. That's what's going on. Okay. Other questions. Is Russia the native language of Georgia? No. But it was the official language for a long, long time. And it's probably still widely spoken.
So I think the youth have rebelled, you know what the youth shall do. The older generation, a lot of them, like I'll hear spasiba, like instead of their local thank you, they'll be like Russian thank you. But I think that's just like older folks. I don't know that the younger folks have embraced Russian so much.
Well, they've been independent since what, like 91? That's 30 years? Don't make me do math. A long time.
Now
a generation. A generation. So I could definitely see that there is going to be a segment of society that really, like, their grandparents spoke Russian, but they don't.
So their local language is Kartuli. So they got their own joint, you know, the written language is actually kind of cute or whatever. It's lots of squiggles.
Is it Cyrillic or is it another alphabet?
I don't know what that means, but it's lots of squiggles. So it's like not
is the Russian alphabet.
I don't think so. Okay. It looks different. Russian's more slanty and this is more like curvy.
Okay. Let's see here. Monica gave a super sticker. Thank you, Monica, for that. That's much appreciated. Other question we had, is Georgia a bartering society that you've observed at all in your time there?
Yeah, but I'm not. I've seen people do it, but like they'll tell you, first of all, I'm not going nowhere where ain't no prices, because
that's how they get you. That's how they get you.
Stupid prices. Because you'd be like, oh, this is cheap. It's like not. It's like 5 times price. But I have seen people, they'll be like, you know, it's this much for this amount. And they'll be like, hey, will you take this or whatever? You know, it's up to the person whether or not they do it. But I've seen people haggle. I'm not gonna haggle, first of all, because it's usually like a couple cents. And I don't have time for all of that. If you need it that bad, go ahead and take it, you know, like whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess.
What other question do we have here? I'm not sure if Sunny is asking this question specifically about Georgia. Have you thought about buying citizenship? It used to only be 50,000.
So the
I think I remember
tourist,
seeing that too.
it is a tourist visa, so you are a tourist. You're not a citizen. Um, I don't know anything. I've never looked into citizenship for anywhere at any point in time, so I have no clue what
Okay.
it would take or how much it costs. So
Okay.
sorry, Sunny,
Okay.
about that. Welcome to the chat, though. Thanks for asking the question. Next caller.
Okay, so we have two questions here.
Yeah.
How have you met Georgian men, and what is the dating like?
I don't know what the dating is like. I know a little bit about what the dating is like. So it's Orthodox Christianity, which I thought Orthodox only had one flavor, which was Jewish, and that's not a
No.
thing. So learn that, which essentially just means that uh, from what I gather, they just want to strangle the life out of you. Sorry about you if you're a Christian. But it just usually means they're just like really strict about stuff and oppressive is usually how I interpret it. That may not be the case. I don't know. So when it comes to dating, you see people booed up. They are public displays of affectioners. So they'll be all up in each other's face, breathing
That's
heavily,
interesting.
holding hands, very cute, everywhere, all ages too. Maybe not the old people. So I guess just young people, which I don't know who you think is old and young. So from what I understand, the girls don't sex and the guys want that. So they go for
Okay.
foreigners who they think they can get that from.
Okay, but this don't go
Um,
together. This don't match. You got milk and no cereal, and cereal with no milk. How are we publicly displaying affection?
well, that doesn't
But
equal sex though.
okay, I guess that is technically correct, but I don't know. That just still don't seem to go together to me. Like I'm gonna slob you down at the market, but I'm not gonna put out. Like it,
So I don't know, but like that's what Christianity teaches you. Like, keep your legs closed, keep that nickel between your knees. They don't say that, we say that. But it's like, don't do that because
okay.
God and babies and
Well,
I don't know,
uh,
respectability, like whatever. So they're known, like Georgian women are have a reputation for being difficult to bed. From
okay.
some of the men too. Like I've seen some posts in these groups and they're like, I try to be engaging and like I message and like, we go out on these dates and stuff and like nothing's happening. So, but like even maybe relationship wise, nothing is happening. They just seem to have like a very large boundary. Georgian men, short, mostly.
That's
Not
all
the
I
tall
need to
people.
hear. No.
Short, uh, balding a lot of times. They look all kind of different. Not a lot of blonde, but there's some
No.
blonde, mostly dark features. Uh, Short and shy. Like they're just not gonna come up to you and be like, "Hey, girl, you know what I'm saying? I saw you across the room or whatever, and I wanted to come and holler at you. You looking real cute or what? So what's your name, baby girl? What you doing?" They're not. They're not that. Dating. So I that's all I got so far.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for the super chat, Cheryl. It's me,
Hey,
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Cheryl.
Um,
Cheryl.
so have you dated foreigners then? Or are you just chilling?
Yeah.
Just
Yes,
yeah,
I
in
have.
general.
Yes, I have. So there's a giant Nigerian population here. A lot come for school. A lot of them come for medical school to be nurses or doctors. There's more than one church, so it's serious. Um, so like they're everywhere. Like I can't hardly walk outside without seeing a Black person.
Okay, stop right there. Let's
Please do,
absorb
because
that. Let's absorb
Absorb it.
that. She said, I can't help when I walk outside and not see a Black person. I have never been able to say that about any place that I have lived.
But it doesn't
Outs
matter. And it might even be worse because
Okay.
you see them, but do they see you? And the
Ah,
answer is no. And the
okay.
answer is no. But like it's other stuff going on. You know, people travel for different reasons. So
Okay.
if you ain't traveling for pleasure, you know, if you ain't traveling to experience the world, if you're traveling because you have stuff you need to do, then
It's different. You move different.
it's very different. And you know, age differences and stuff like that, and cultural differences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yes, there are Black people, but does it mean anything? No. Not to
Okay.
me.
Okay. So what do you do for fun in Georgia?
Well, like Anisha.
Anicia?
What do I do for fun? I take naps. I eat peaches. I try to find a good watermelon. If I don't, I definitely cry. I enjoy crying, so that's cool. I've been going to the gym, and I'm saying getting swole a little bit. I don't know if y'all noticed.
Working on your fitness?
I don't know if you noticed this. um, I've I've not been good. This is something that I was talking about earlier. Is like I got to this point where when I was traveling, I was live traveling. I wasn't exploring, being curious, traveling. Even when I got here, I was like, oh, they got, you know what I'm saying, the thermal baths. They got this like all these walking tours and the cable cars and like have I done that? No. I've done it. I've hung out at bars, I've done karaoke and
Well, that's a
taken
thing.
naps. So I
Those
go
are all
karaoke.
valid things to do.
I mean, whatever.
Okay.
So that's what I've done for enjoyment. But I would like to enjoy some more. So I was telling you before we got on here that I traveled to the seaside. So Georgia borders the Black Sea. And I came to see the sea because I realized that mountains are just a bunch of dry rocks. I don't think I like that anymore. I thought I could be a mountain girl, but I'm not a mountain girl. So I see the mountains, not as much as in Albania. Albania is like one giant mountain, but
Yeah.
so but it's just like a bunch of city, you know, a bunch of buildings and old buildings at that. So like not aesthetically pleasing necessarily, unless you like crust. So I was like, let me go see something that moves. And that's wet, and that would be the sea. So that's been cool, like being near water again.
Okay. All right. Um,
And I
based
did it
off,
without my laptop. Yeah.
I know, and I was marveling at that because that's not me. It is an extension of my right
It's
hand.
me. I don't want that
Um,
no more. I've been living that life for 6 years, and it is nice to not have that laptop. It's nice to have my mind off of work, off of community, off of serving. It's nice to just be with myself again and chill.
yeah.
Plus, my laptop's a little bit older, so no one wants that albatross.
Do you
Gay
know
friendly.
if it is? I would not
So I went to
expect it.
Pride.
Okay.
No,
There's
it's
pride.
Orthodox, like strangling. There
Okay,
was a
because
Pride, but they had problems last year. They were attacked last year. So they had it on this super exclusive place with 1,000,000 miles of police, like
yes,
from every angle.
that
And they
doesn't
were supposed to
surprise
have
me.
transportation down from the mountain, and they did not. And I had to walk 47 country miles to leave the event because the transportation that was taking us to the city wasn't running yet because they were trying to keep people safe, which I get. And then, you know, culture, like, where's the flair? Where's the friendliness? Where's the gay? And it's like, wasn't there. I think I
That's
just went maybe a little too early.
I don't know. Okay. Now take all what I'm about to say with a grain of salt because I'm an outsider observing. But I went to Catholic school a lot, and but it's Roman Catholicism, which has sort of
Hmm.
modernized itself, and I'm
Okay.
using that in quotes because
Rebranded.
yeah, they've, like, oh, women can wear pants when they go to mass now, and you don't have to cover your head. That's what I mean by they have modernized. As far as I know, in the Orthodox Church, there has been no such movement like Vatican I, Vatican II, where they've kind of went back and looked at the rules and the traditions, and they've been like, okay, we don't need to do that anymore. So I would expect a place that is very Orthodox Christian to be a difficult place to be out and gay. I would not expect there to be lots of flamboyance without lots of backlash.
Hate. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but like they're quiet people anyway. Like I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know that that's there anyway. Like they just chill, you know what I mean? So there is a gay club. I haven't been to it. It was just that one Pride event. I watched a documentary, and it was like surrounding queer communities. So like from other countries, they were showing a bunch of films that filmmakers had created about their queer communities, about their queer lives. So like you get a little bit of insight there. And it's, just kind of quiet, kind of reserved. Like, yeah. So they'll have a Pride, which like Malaysia ain't have no Pride. You know what I'm saying? Not that I knew of. I don't know that Albania did.
I guess that's something.
I mean, yeah, like they had an event.
That they had an event. That is something.
Yeah.
And I can always count on Anissa to come in and rein me in. She said the last I is silent. It's a whole mistake. That's what she said. So it's Anissa. But I can always count on her to rein in some of the nonsense that comes out of my mouth. You are correct. Queer communities are not a monolith. Everybody is not walking around being
but no one said that either.
Yeah.
But within the vastness of queer communities, there are people with flair. I would like to meet them, and I haven't met that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that everybody has to have flair. Like,
yeah.
I'll be looking for some life. Where are signs of life? Show them to me. But I hope that answers your question. I haven't like seen two dudes like holding hands publicly, kissing publicly, or two women holding hands publicly, kissing publicly, or whatever.
Because again, I'm still surprised you mentioned public displays of affection, even if it was heterosexual. I would not expect that.
Slobbing, all up in each other's faces. But I mean, they ain't got no place to go. You also have to look at that, like,
well, and that is because that has been my explanation for why it exists here. But here it is all ages. Yes, yeah. Mama and Papa, Mama with her man friend will be at the park, and they will be throwing down. I've seen it doesn't matter if it's heterosexual, homosexual. So I wondered if it was partially because look, it's 8 people at my house. We're gonna do this here at the park, or it ain't gonna get done. Right. So I wondered if it was some of that. Okay. F Doctor says, what do you do for work?
Girl, what do I do for work? Okay, so where does money come from? It comes from the podcast a little bit. Get some sponsorships from that. It comes from the conference, our annual conference. It comes from our seasonal mastermind. So we had a winter, a spring, and a summer this year so far, where women just need space held for their dreams to come true, space to grow.
You're gonna have to do a better job talking about these things. So let's start with the conference, the event that's coming up next month.
Yes. Okay, so I started the group, Digital Nomad Entrepreneurs, and from that, I wanted to have deeper conversations. So we started a weekly podcast so that I could scrape the insides of Black women's lives, Black women from everywhere, all kinds of different Black women, and I get excited. And so I'm talking to these Black women several times a week, week after week, because it's a weekly podcast. And I was like, let's get together. Let's like share what we know. Let's travel, which is the thing we love to do. And like, let's figure out how we can help each other. Let's support one another. Let's inspire one another. So the idea for the conference came up. 2020 was what it was. That's when the first in-person was supposed to be. And so we just had it online. We had it online last year. And this year we're doing it in person and online. So the in-person portion is going to be in Tbilisi, and the online portion is going to be some sessions. I'm thinking of doing like a couple of live sessions with that too, but they're recorded sessions that focus on travel, wellness, and creating an online income. So that's what had happened.
Okay.
And then
So
the mastermind came from.
wait. So if I'm watching this and I just
Okay.
heard about this awesome event, can I register? Can I
Oh yeah.
attend?
So please go to Black Women Travel, and that's TRAVL travel.com/IBWTJ. That's International Black Women Travel Jubilee, which is the name of the event.
And it is,
And all the
that
info is
link
there.
is pinned in the chat if you are watching this live. If you are watching the replay, you can find a link in the description below. Okay.
Replay.
So that takes care of the conference, but there are other things that you do as well.
Yeah. So the mastermind, during the conference, something really dope happened, and we had these community chats after each day. And what I found was I felt like some of the women were saying things out loud to themselves and in front of witnesses that maybe they hadn't said before because they had space to say them. We talked about before not having space to really know what it was that you wanted and who you were because you've been surviving, you've been trying to pay them bills or whatever. And so it was really wonderful to have that kind of space without having to change your conditions first, which is hard, right? It's hard to be in the exact same situation and like have a whole new mindset. Like, yeah, I can leave. This is possible. I can make money how I want to. I can live a more fulfilling life. So I created the mastermind. So we've been doing it for 10 weeks at a time with like maybe a week or two break in between where we get to do that, but also put some action behind it. So this is also what I find is like, we're smart. Like we just are. Like we know what it is. The problem is that we don't give ourselves space to fail, to make mistakes, to learn, to show up imperfectly. We don't give ourselves space to just try stuff out, to put ourselves out there. We don't realize how much it takes to sell anything. To sell anything at all, how many times you have to talk about it, how many times you have to repeat yourself for the people who just came around, all this, the marketing of it all. So in addition to the conversations that we have, I also make space for co-working. So that's your dedicated time. That's your accountability to sit down and like do it. Because we could talk about it all day, but that's not only going to do it. Oh, well, I want to do this, but I'm afraid to fail. And like, I don't want people to see me fail. And like, I want to be a singer, but I'm not really sure. Like, okay, we can talk about it, but you also need to do something. You have to take some type of action. So it's a cute little mixture of both where we're showing up weekly. And like, the room is always lovely because it's women who get it. They just get it. And that's what the conference is about too. Women who just get it. You don't have to explain your desires to them, but they get it. But it's not just the desires, it's the fears as well, right? It's the fears of not being enough, not knowing enough, having to work 50 times as hard to get half as much, all this stuff that's been dumped into our brains. And like this feeling that you're too old and too tired. You're too old and too tired to like have what you actually should have or could have. All that stuff that's been lying dormant inside you all these years that you push to the back because you don't know how to monetize it. So yeah, that's what I've been focusing on. It's been dope. We've just been doing it this year. We just started. So it's been a lot of the ladies have done all three. They've done the winter, the spring, and the summer. So it's just been wonderful to see them grow over time,
Junquette says it is a great space, supportive and informative. And so I was just thinking that if you are
Thank you, girl.
Black woman, and you're looking for community, you're looking for support, you're looking for that accountability group, the people that's gonna nudge you.
Yeah.
Here you go.
You know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Head to Black Women Travel. That's TRAVL.com. So we're not doing a fall. We're not going to do that. We're falling back.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about the time, because I think that's important too. Is to take time off. We're not people who are pressed for productivity. We see rest as being productive as well. And I want to embody that. And so we're not doing a fall mastermind, but we are going to do a winter one. So it's going to start up in January again. You can get on the email list if you want to see when that happens. So just go to blackwomentravel.com and you can sign up for the email list. You just scroll to the bottom or whatever. I don't got one of them cute little pop-ups. I should probably do that, but you just scroll to the bottom.
Shouldn't we all? That's been on my to-do list for a year and a half. So
right.
I left Yvonne's comment up here because several of y'all today, I finally realized that the video of my feature in Essence magazine that was on the YouTube channel, it wasn't public. So I made it public. So there were several people in the comments of the chat today congratulating me on that. But who wrote that piece? Miss Yvonne McBride wrote that piece. So she said attending all of Wanda's conferences, work sessions, community pushed her to get out of her way and start her freelance writing career. And she's out there doing the damn thing. Hard.
And she started with Travel Noir, you know what I'm saying? And it was January, I think. Her first piece was published in January. We had those meetings in December. So it was the talent, it was the timing, it was the connection. She just needed an opportunity. And she is just absolutely flown. I think she was published in Fathers as well. So it's Travel Noir, Fathers, Essence magazine. She's spreading the good gospel about you, Adelia. Like this is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to ripple all the way out. It's supposed to tear through. It's supposed to make things easier for all of us. Like Yvonne is like all of that.
Yes. We did have another question. What other countries are your radar after Georgia? Because I watched the interview you did with Krishan where you said you might be looking for residency somewhere.
I mean, yeah, I think I want, you know what I'm saying? I want a Shure mic. Shure is a brand of mic. I want a nice mic, you know what I'm saying? I want like a soundproof room. Maybe buy a couple pairs of shoes that aren't strategic. Maybe buy clothes. Maybe have like a towel that's not a travel towel that dries quickly. Maybe, maybe when I buy stuff, like I'm buying it to actually like keep it for an amount of time and not just something to get me through this next couple months or next year or whatever. And it's just occurred to me this year. I was like, maybe I need a base, like a for real base, not somewhere that I hunker down for a while. So yeah, I've been thinking about that. What country? I don't know, because it's been a lot of places I haven't been to. The places that I've been to, I don't necessarily want to go because it's just like sometimes too difficult to stay or like it didn't hit all the things that were important to me. So I mean, I see y'all out there in the streets. Y'all influenced in Mexico, Portugal. I got y'all. So maybe, you know what I'm saying? Ecuador too.
Somebody asked me about Ecuador because on Monday's live, I talked about my country shopping for my second residency. And Ecuador, any place that already speaks Spanish makes sense for me. However, and I think Ecuador, if I am correct, you can get a visa if you have a college degree. They actually lowered it to if you have an associate's degree. You can qualify for a residency visa.
Did you enroll for one day of school?
But I have to do a little bit digging more into their policy as far as like how much time you have to spend into the country. Because for me at this moment, that's a concern. So who knows where Wanda will be next? But
where in the world?
She's in Tbilisi now. She'll be there next month for the International Black Women Travel Jubilee. You can attend online or in person. We've asked all of my questions. And I don't see any additional questions in the chat.
Y'all ain't got no other questions. Y'all got some questions.
I think
that delay just be delaying.
So if there is something else you want to know about Wanda or her time.
Y'all didn't even ask how I was. Y'all rude. Y'all ain't say, Wanda, how are you? Like, how's your spirit these days?
How are you, Wanda?
Oh, I'm feeling refreshed. Girl, that heat was getting me.
How hot is it there?
2. It's too hot. So it got up to like 40. Which
okay, because I was over here trying to do math in my head. I was like, 2? That's not hot. Okay. But you said 40.
Yeah, and it got up to like 100.
The only things I have memorized in centigrade is 0 is freezing and 40 is 100. I know those 2 numbers. Anything in between, I have no concept of. So 40, that I know is hot.
Extremely disrespectful. But so June wasn't hot, but July came down and took my breath away. No, it's not humid. So it's not. So like in Malaysia, you just be sitting there minding your business and then rivers of sweat just appear from nowhere for no reason. Like, why? What's happening? And then like when the sun goes down, the heat goes away too, which is also very respectful. Because like in Malaysia, it didn't care. It was just like sun up, sun down. I don't care. Hot. Now what? And also the shade matters. So like if you're in the shade, like it's actually cooler, which I didn't know that was a thing that could happen.
It's like it is here. And so I just Googled the elevation because I know that Georgia is a mountainous country. Wondering if that kind of played a role into it. And the city ranges between 1,250 and 2,530 feet above sea level and has the shape of an amphitheater. So kind of like a bowl. I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but I found it interesting. So that would explain why if you go into the shade, it could be significantly cooler. When the sun goes down at night, it gets significantly cooler. That makes sense. Okay.
But being by the sea has been, well, first of all, it's been raining every day of my life. But other than that, like the weather's been just cooler in general, which thank you, universe.
Any security concerns? Because that's not that far from Ukraine.
Oh, but I mean, it's like the other side of the water, and the water is like quite large. So
well, yes.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But like, you got to go through Russia before you get to Ukraine anyway. So like, if anything, like, don't be scared
from
of
where
Russia.
you are. Okay. I just had to put my mental map because I'm like, oh yeah, Georgia's gonna be down here.
So it's
Ukraine's
like
gonna be over here. Yeah.
It's like Turkey and Russia. Georgia is the meat.
Y'all know I love a fun fact. We had a meetup here Sunday, and somebody asked something, and I can't help it. It's not something I think about. It's just like, oh, I know this thing, and let me share it to you. One time, I forget where we were, and Rashida said something. She said, you know how you like ask a question where you're thinking out loud, but you don't really want somebody to answer it? And Rashida goes, don't history me right now.
That sounds like her.
So okay. Yvonne's got a good question. If people are considering coming to the conference or Tbilisi in general, what area should they consider staying in?
Area. Oh, so the location for the conference is in a neighborhood called Vake. That's Vake. So it looks like bake, like rake with a V. So it's in Vake. So if you wanted to be like near that, you could do that. But that is like one of the more expensive areas of town. But like everywhere, like it's big, but it's not like big. So it's like, it may take you like 20 minutes, and taxis are affordable. Like you probably paying maybe $3 or $4, maybe less, maybe a little bit more. But the distances aren't super great. So like anywhere you stay really is okay. What are the other, I mean, so there's a part called Old Tbilisi, but I'm not really sure which part that is because like I said,
It's all old.
oh, what do y'all know? Like most places are pretty close.
Okay.
There's one called Jubilee, but I don't think there's like a lot of hotels over there. A Sabertalo, that's also not too far away. That's another area of town.
Can you repeat that?
Sabertalo.
Okay. Just in case anybody was trying to take notes.
But I did get, I've been in touch with like a bunch of hotels or whatever. So if you were interested in a specific one, like I could get a special rate. So some of them have offered like us a special rate. If you're doing hotels versus like an Airbnb, which that might be tricky right now still. I'll stay mines. How else do people say? There are some hostels and stuff like that too.
What about the hotel that the conference is at?
So it's called Pullman. It's called Pullman Resorts and Hotels at Access Towers. So that information is on blackwomentravel.com/IBWTJ and the address. So you can always just like look up the address and see what hotels are nearby that are within your price range. And again, like just reach out if there's a specific hotel you're interested in and you want a special rate, and I can negotiate that for you.
And there is the URL for Wanda's website. Travel does not have the letter E. So make sure you're careful when you put that in. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Yolanda.
I think we've done it.
Have we done
it? I think we've done it. I appreciate you giving us some time on your holiday. You know, you bought a seat and whatnot, and hanging out with us today.
Girl, just in between glasses of wine. Let me go finish it.
I love to see it. I love to see it.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much for your questions, for your fun facts. You always just have like a great historical perspective as well when you talk about stuff, because that's important. You know, these places didn't just pop up out of nowhere, especially around these parts. These are old parts. So
that's old.
I always love. Asbestos.
Is the podcast on hiatus right now?
I mean, you know what I'm saying? You know, I put stuff out when I feel like it these days.
Okay. So I've adopted that model as well. What's the schedule?
I knew what it was for 2.5 years, but
that's plenty. That's plenty. So y'all, if you have not had an opportunity to listen to the Black Women Travel podcast, and you are interested in hearing the stories of a incredible range of Black women and experiences, you really are missing out if you've not checked out the podcast. There is a link to, I think, the YouTube channel for the podcast, but you can find the Black Women Travel podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It's there. And there are, I know it's more than 100 episodes. I don't recall exactly how many, but there are plenty of stories there to connect with, to be inspired by. Yes, Angela is correct. The podcast is amazing. If you've not checked it out, please go do so. We are going to let Wanda get back to her glass of wine. And I hope the rest of you have a fabulous Wednesday. And I need to go pack. So
well, have fun putting your laptop in your special place.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Special place,
I'm gonna try.
Okay, not wrong.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're